Hey everyone, and welcome to Success on Understandable English. This series, we talk to people who have had success learning English, and we learn what they did to achieve it. This is part 3 with Katya. So let's get to it. Tell me about what opportunities you've had thanks to your high level of English.
Well, first of all, this is my job, so thank you very much for my English that I can make my living with that. Also, well, of course, traveling. I'm really into like solo traveling, and I think I have never had any troubles traveling alone. Always could get some help if I needed it. Always could communicate with people, meet a lot of friends all around the world.
Traveling is definitely a big thing to emphasize. But of course, being an American who speaks English natively, one might think that, of course, traveling around the world is easy. I've started to notice that as a younger person when I traveled, as a student, it was okay for me to, go to a new city, look at some churches, look at some buildings, enjoy the city for a few days, but really not get that deep into the place or the people, the culture, and the things that are happening in that place. But as I've gotten older and I've seen a lot of cities, I've seen a lot of countries, to me, some of it's starting to look the same, but the travel memories that I have that are most fond and the most interesting were the places that I went where the languages that I've learned have really given me an eye open. Because of course many people do speak English, but never to the deepest level in order to explain how they feel and the most intricate and intimate details of their life. And so recently I had a trip through Central Asia, and of course I didn't speak any of the most local languages, but knowing Russian was enough to communicate quite well with almost all the locals. And so it really was a different experience traveling when I could talk to just about anyone on the streets and really get to know the people and the culture, the food, and everything around in a much more intimate way. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think people treat you differently when you speak their native language.
Yeah, definitely. I think that especially in more tourist areas, when I was in Tajikistan, for example, we were traveling through the mountains and a lot of tourists go through there. Very rare that a person who could speak Russian other than Russians had come through. And so for them to have an American come through who they could speak to in a more than just the tourist words in English, they were super excited to tell about their culture and listen to stories about my country and such, and get more details than they were able to understand through the other tourists who were there. So it was definitely an interesting exchange of information and all of that. So how has becoming a teacher and working now for many years as a teacher affected your own English and your own ability to learn?
Well, I would say that I always improve my English and I always work on my English because there are no limits there. You guys, I'm sorry to say that, but you can keep on learning and learning and learning. And that would not be enough. Well, depends on what you want to achieve, yeah, and again, your goals and objectives, yeah. But for me, yeah, I would say that 80% of content I consume is in English. I binge watch podcasts, TV series, TV shows in English because I enjoy it, but also as I am looking for some stuff for my students, because I really like to implement authentic materials. I need to consume these materials for these reasons as well. And I would say that I'm constantly just improving my English, and I'm happy with that. So I'm very curious, to see, oh my God, wow, this is interesting. I've never seen that before. And it keeps me going because some people may say you just repeat the same stuff all the time. Yeah, isn't it boring to be a teacher? No, it's not. Because you have this individual approach to every student, and you give different kinds of stuff, and you explain things differently, and you talk on different topics. And so
I agree that I think one of the most important pieces of being a teacher is being curious yourself and wanting to learn, because you need to learn about your students, learn about the ways that they will find interesting, and continue to learn about how to make yourself better. And a teacher who falls into a rut and repeats the same things over and over is no different than a robot in that sense. So it's better to stay curious, to stay ready to learn and to change with the world and change with your students.
Yeah, and also actually being a teacher, it helps you to discover some things outside English. I would say, for example, you just use English as a tool, but then you talk about, I don't know, LGBTQ plus rights, yeah, or you talk about serial killers. I'm sorry, this is just the topic that I had with my student the other day, and she was like so excited about it. I'm also like a big fan of this kind of TV series, so we were talking a lot about serial killers, and yeah, it's not only about English, it's about discovering things.
Yeah, definitely. I've also found that interest with my own students as we discuss various topics. Some of my students are interested in business, so we discuss business. Some people are interested in Turkish serials and TV shows. So there was a time when I was up to date with all the latest drama in the Turkish TV world. And, I would not have expected that, but as using English as a tool, it was wonderful to be able to talk to my students and connect to them on something that they found important and use that to foster their growth. If we want to give advice or strategies to help people watching this interview, what strategies and advice can you give them that you've taken from your own students and your own experience?
Well, I'd say that setting goals helps, as you like, it's all about motivation, because you cannot just have motivation and it won't take you somewhere very far, because it's hard work. And when we have the cycles of motivation, and it means that if you have a goal, it's easier to stay focused, to stay consistent, and get there and see the result. So I would say setting goals and breaking them into smaller tasks or objectives is a good strategy that can keep you going. Also, stay consistent. You can't learn, of course you can, but it will take a lot of time. But it's much easier and much more effective to study more and harder than to study just once a week without doing any homework. So I'd suggest having at least 2 classes a week, 2 lessons a week, and doing some individual work. It will also help with the progress. Try to dive headfirst into the language and be curious, as we have already mentioned that. Notice things, or what was your metaphor there with the mining, your mind
mine for vocabulary.
Notice it and be curious. Practice it. So just being curious and just noticing things is not enough to start speaking. So practice and practice and practice. Have a study buddy. Go to take formal courses. Take to a speaking club, my speaking club. And or just maybe you have a pen pal or whatever. But I suggest practicing spoken English more than written English. That will help you. Try to personalize the process. If you are with a teacher, please take part in the process as well. If you don't like something, tell that you don't like this, and ask your teacher to personalize the program, to tailor the program to your needs. Because if you don't like it, if you don't like the topic, if you don't like the way the teacher explains things, if you don't like reading or kind of things, I'm afraid that you will lose interest pretty soon.
Yeah, I think I would definitely have to agree. I think that goals are probably, for me, one of the most important pieces, and not having too big of goals and not having too small of goals, because a lot of people will attempt to say, well, I want to see what I've done in 2 weeks, and they try to measure their progress. And of course, there's nothing really visible in 2 weeks, maybe even in a month, nothing really super visible. But if you measure every 2 months, you can see, wow, I've definitely advanced. You can compare the difficulty of a book you're reading to a different one, or to the ability to have a conversation with your tutor and such. And so setting goals that are realistic and not trying to micromanage your way there, because you'll have steps in the right directions and steps in the wrong directions. But of course, every step you learn something. Even if it's the wrong direction, you still learn something in that sense. So errors, of course, are part of the process. I also want to add on that some of my most high achieving students are the ones who, I would say, have no shame. They are ready to talk about everything, and they are not afraid to make mistakes. because those are the ones who are ready to talk. And of course, by making those grammar mistakes, they learn from them. So they will say something completely wrong, I'll fix them, and the next time they'll say it right. Whereas the students who are timid and shy may be scared to attempt to say something simply because, well, I might be wrong, so I don't want to have my teacher think I'm stupid or silly or I didn't study. No, you should attempt to say those things and make the mistakes, because the step in the wrong direction just means that next time the step will be in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Have no fear.
Yeah, exactly. No fear, dive right in, dive into that mine and mine those diamonds, as they say nowadays, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about your speaking club. Do you want to say a little bit about that? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I've come up with an idea of opening this speaking club not that long ago, because I found out that as I now like to focus on vocabulary more, I thought it's a really great opportunity to practice the vocabulary that you want to learn, speaking to people, and also not just speaking, but speaking with the control or supervision of a person that may help you to use this vocabulary better. So yeah, in my speaking club, we have some topics, weekly topics, or every week we have a different topic, and I prepare some vocabulary. And then we do some quizzes to be prepared for the speaking club, and then we see and practice it. And I think this is a great opportunity, and this is a great way to implement this vocabulary, new vocabulary, into your speech. And yeah, if you are interested, you can always check on me on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. I will throw the link to your club in the bottom of the video so that people can follow along and join in. Because for me, the goal of making this channel was to make a place for people to be able to consume media that is more or less native level. I try not to slow down or to talk differently. A few times I do when I'm explaining more simple things, but I tried to make it so that it's near native content that is a step up. It has subtitles that help you understand and ways to find new phrases that maybe you didn't quite catch. But of course, that doesn't help speaking. It helps with writing when you're talking with me in the comments, or with understanding when you're listening to the videos or reading, the subtitles. But it doesn't help with speaking. So of course, speaking club with you would be the fourth pinnacle of this language learning adventure that they're going on. So
thank you. And by the way, I can say that we also have special guests, and Ryan was one of our special guests. Like once a month, we have native speakers that come, and you have an opportunity to listen to and to speak to people who are born with the language.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun to meet new people, even if they're not my students, because each person has their own journey with English and learning, and so it's a lot of fun to hear from people all over the world and such like that. Is there anything else you want to tell my massive audience of 21 subscribers?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It was so much fun, and I was excited, and I'm still very excited to take part in this. And the last thing I want to say is enjoy the process. Yeah, whichever language you learn, enjoy the process, because this is something that will give you a lot of opportunities in life. It's not just about your maybe personal goals or career goals or maybe relationship goals, because you can meet a partner somewhere else. I
agree that the process is so important, because a lot of people do get lost in the goal, right? They want to achieve B2 by next year so that they can work at this firm, and then suddenly, well, they got the certificate, but they spent a whole year drilling through this course, but they didn't really enjoy it. And for me, I really like the process of going through and discovering those little pieces of fun and information and stuff throughout my journey through the language. So it's a never-ending journey, like you said. Every day I try to find a new word that I didn't know, or I try to find a new phrase or an idiom that I didn't know. And of course, the language is infinitely big. So.
Yeah. But it's so fun, and with every step you take,
every move you make,
you're getting closer to where you want to get.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm happy to have this discussion with another person who loves languages and learning as much as me. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all for today. I hope you learned something new and found some new inspiration and motivation. Do you have any questions for Katya? If so, write them in the comments below and we'll respond. If you learned something new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Toodles!